Fly private on a Monday, New York to Miami, on a mid-sized jet. You'll pay about $20,000. 3 hours in the air, 8 seats, a car waiting for you when you land. But the next day, someone else gets on that same plane, same route back, same pilots, same seats, same coffee, same tail number painted on the side. But he only pays $7,000. It's not a different plane. It's not a cheaper ticket type, because there isn't one. He gets the exact same flight for about a third of the price. Now, expensive places have sales all the time. A hotel drops the price on an empty room. An airline dumps a seat the night before. But that room costs the hotel almost nothing. This is a plane worth millions of dollars. 2 trained pilots are flying it. It's burning fuel the whole way. That flight doesn't get cheaper just because of who's sitting inside. So how does the most expensive way to travel end up with 2 completely different prices for the exact same thing? It's not a coupon. Nobody haggled. The reason is built into the way private jets actually work, and most passengers never find out about it. By the end of this video, you'll know where that second price comes from, and you'll know who's really paying for it. Let's start with a simple question. Who actually owns the jet? Almost never the company that sells you the seat. Say, you buy a Gulfstream. That's a $30 million jet. Now, you have to run it. You need 2 full-time pilots. You need inspections on a schedule, insurance, a hangar, fuel, flight plans, and piles of government paperwork. Most owners don't want to deal with any of that. So they hand the keys to a management company. That company runs the plane now. It hires the pilots and trains them. It holds the government license you need to legally fly people for money. And if something goes wrong, it's responsible. The owner still owns the jet. He also still pays for it. The fuel, the repairs, the pilot salaries, and all of that lands on his bill from the management company. So what does he get in return? When he's not using his plane, the management company rents it out to anyone for business trips and leisure. That's why a charter company's online fleet list doesn't always reflect reality. You see dozens of jets, sometimes hundreds, photographed together like they all belong to one business. Most of them don't. They belong to different rich people who have never even met each other. When one of those rentals sells, the money gets split. The owner takes 85%. The management company keeps 15%. So on a $20,000 flight, $17,000 goes to the owner to help cover his bills. $3,000 goes to the company that set it up. It's a good deal for both of them. The owner shrinks his bill. The company gets a fleet of planes it never had to buy. But the whole thing depends on one thing. The plane has to be in the air, with somebody paying to be on it. And private jets are terrible at that. Why? Because a private jet doesn't have a fixed route. Think about a normal airline. Its planes fly the same loops over and over. New York to Chicago, Chicago back to New York. All day, every day. Almost every single time, somebody is paying to sit on board. A private jet does the opposite. It goes exactly where one customer wants, at exactly the time he wants. Then it stops, and it sits there, on the ground, wherever he left it. Go back to our flight. A client pays $20,000 to fly from New York to Miami. Then he stays in Miami for a week. The plane can't stay with him. Somebody else has booked it for Thursday out of New Jersey. Or the owner wants it back home. Or the pilots are running out of the hours they're legally allowed to fly that week. So the plane takes off from Miami with nobody in it. 8 empty seats. And it flies all the way back to New York. That flight has a name. Pilots call it a deadhead. The industry calls it an empty leg. And it happens constantly. So how often exactly? Here's the strange part. Nobody actually knows. One aviation magazine says 40% of private flights fly empty. A big charter company says it's closer to 30. Another firm says 1 in every 3 flights home has nobody on board. Not one of them says where their number came from. Think about that for a second. This industry can tell you exactly how much fuel a plane burns in an hour, but ask how much of its flying makes 0 money, and nobody can give you a real answer. What it costs, though, isn't in doubt at all. An empty plane costs almost the same as a full one. The 2 pilots still get paid. The same fuel still goes in. The engines still rack up hours, and those hours pull the next expensive inspection closer. The only thing missing is any money coming in. And that whole bill lands on the owner. The same man who was told that renting his jet out would help pay for it. So what do you do with a flight nobody's paying for? Well, you sell it. That's where the second price comes from. That plane is flying back to New York on Tuesday, no matter what. The fuel is already bought. The pilots are already getting paid. The money is already gone. So operators put those empty flights online and let anybody buy them. The price drops hard, usually somewhere between 1/4 and 3/4 off the normal rate. It depends on how badly they need the plane moved and how soon it leaves. Run our route through it. New York to Miami on that mid-sized jet costs about $20,000 the normal way. Sold as an empty leg, the same plane goes for around $7,000. That's roughly 65% off. Now watch where that $7,000 actually goes, because nobody here is making money. The management company takes its usual 15%. That's about $1,000. The rest, around $6,000, goes to the owner. And remember, that flight was going to burn his fuel and pay his pilots anyway. So he didn't earn $6,000. He got $6,000 back. That's the whole thing. The operator takes a small fee on a flight it never wanted to make. The owner claws back a piece of money he had already lost. And the passenger walks onto a plane worth millions for about the price of 4 business class tickets. So what does that passenger give up? Control. All of it. He doesn't pick the day. He doesn't pick the time. He doesn't even pick the airport. He flies where the plane was already going, when it was already going. And if the owner changes his plans on Monday night, that flight just disappears. It only existed because the plane had to move. By the way, if you like watching this type of content, please subscribe and hit that like button. It costs nothing, and it really helps this channel. Now, there's a second answer hiding behind the first one. Empty legs explain a cheap seat, but they don't explain why 2 people can book a normal, full-price flight on the same jet, on the same day, and still get told 2 different prices. So what's going on there? There are a lot more companies involved than you'd think. The United States has about 1,800 licensed operators. Between them, they fly more than 11,500 planes. The biggest one is NetJets, and it is huge. Over 800 aircraft, close to 15% of every private flight in North America. FlexJet comes next, at around 6%. Now flip those numbers around. The 2 biggest companies in this whole industry, added together, are only about 1/5 of it. So who flies the other 80%? Hundreds of tiny companies you have never heard of. Most of them own a handful of planes each. That creates a problem. If you phone one operator, there's a good chance it has nothing free on your date. No company is big enough to always say yes. So the operators all post their free planes on one shared website. The main one is called Avinode. Think of it like the listing service real estate agents use. You type in a date and 2 cities. It shows you every jet nearby that could do your trip. And here's the important part. That website isn't private. Any licensed broker can search it. So dozens of companies with dozens of different websites can all sell you the exact same plane. And each one adds whatever profit it wants on top of the operator's price. It gets stranger. On a busy day, an operator with nothing free will quietly hand your trip to a rival, and it takes a cut for passing it along. Your flight can get sold 2 or 3 times before it reaches the company that actually puts fuel in the plane. There is one rule nobody is allowed to break. Only the company genuinely flying the plane can be in charge of it. A broker can sell you the trip, but he cannot operate the plane. So there is no set price for a private jet. There never was. The operator decides what the flight costs to run. Whoever you happen to phone decides what you pay on top of that. Which leaves the biggest question of all. Who is actually paying for this mess? Well, it's the person who paid $20,000. The two prices aren't a trick, and they aren't a sale. They're a sign of something broken. This is a luxury industry that can't get its planes to the right place. Jets keep ending up in the wrong city. A huge chunk of the flying earns nothing at all. But somebody has to cover that. It's the full price customer. Every $20,000 flight is quietly paying for the empty flight that has to follow it. The owner swallows whatever's left. Then, the person who doesn't care when he flies turns up and buys the leftovers for $7,000. So that cheap seat isn't a deal the industry wanted to offer you. It's a loss they're trying to sell back to you. And once you can see that, you'll spot it all over the world of expensive toys. Something costs so much to own that the owner has to rent it to strangers just to survive it. It's exactly why a $100 million super yacht spends its summer rented out to people who don't own it. And that has far more to do with the tax bill than with sailing. That video is on screen right now. Go and watch how the super yacht business works, because those numbers are even weirder than these ones. And tell me in the comments, would you fly an empty leg if somebody else picked? The day, the time, and the airport? I read everyone. If you enjoyed the ride, hit that subscribe button before you go. I'll see you in the next one.